What's going on, fish keepers? George from SFA Cichlids here. On today's video, we're going to be talking about the fastest way to grow your African cichlid fry. There's some very good information in this video. I wouldn't want to miss it if I were you. Stay tuned. I broke it down into 4 sections. Number 1 is food and feeding schedule. Number 2 is water quality. Number 3 is water temperature. And number 4 is tank size. For food and feeding schedule, feeding a high quality food with the right ingredients for your fish will aid them in growth. The more times a day you feed them, the faster their metabolism gets as well, and that's going to increase their growth rate. I usually feed my African cichlid fry about 2 times a day. Now, you gotta do some math here, because that does mean you're going to consume more food, which is less profit at the end of the day. But it's known if you feed them more times a day, their metabolism is faster. And it doesn't mean you have to feed them, like if you normally feed them 1 heavy meal a day, you don't have to feed them 3 heavy meals a day. You just feed them a little bit less each time. As far as quality of the food, I use northfin fry starter from the time they're free swimming till they're about 3/4 inch to 1 inch. Then I switched to New Life Spectrum Grow till they're almost 2 inches, and then from there I just use New Life Spectrum Cichlid formula, and that has worked great for me. Some other great options that some breeders say will make them grow faster is to do baby brine shrimp when they're fry, and then very high protein foods all the way up until they're 2 to 3 inches. Number 2 is water quality. So ideally you want to do 2 water changes a week minimum if you really want to speed up the process of which your fry grow. Since you're going to be feeding these tanks pretty heavily, 1 water change a week usually doesn't cut it. I mean, you can do it, but the parameters in the tank won't be the best. You're going to get a quicker buildup in nitrates because of feeding multiple times a day. I try to do 60 to 70% water changes twice a week on my fry that I really want to grow out quickly. But if I skip one of those water changes, I will at least do it once a week, and I will try to make that water change pretty significant, maybe like 80%. The key to big water changes, guys, is fill the tank up slowly. Make sure that chlorinated water is not getting into your tank too fast, and that's after using a dechlorinator, of course. Now, not all tanks need 2 water changes a week. For example, if in this 150-gallon pond I only had 51-inch fish, I probably wouldn't have to do a water change in there for a month. Besides the nitrates, cichlids also release hormones into the water. Once there's a certain amount of hormones in the water, the fish will stop growing, and the way to take those hormones out, you guessed it, is a water change. So water changes are very important. Number 3 is temperature, which directly ties up with increasing their metabolism. So most African cichlid tanks are run around 78 degrees. However, when you want to grow fry quickly, I would recommend you turn it up to 82 or 83 degrees. Increasing the temperature will increase the fish's metabolism. However, the level of dissolved oxygen in the water will be a lot lower since the water is hotter. So make sure you have plenty of aeration in your tank. I do recommend sponge filters for all your fry tanks, because sometimes hang on the backs clog or this and that, and the sponge filter will keep going. The last thing I wanted to talk about is tank size. So when the fry are free swimming, I put them in the breeder box. Once they get to about 3/4 inch, I would recommend you putting them in a 10 or a 20-gallon tank till they're about 1.5 inches, then upgrading them to a 55 or a 75 if you have that available, and eventually into a 125 if you want to grow them to like 3 or 4 inches. So that's all you need to know about growing your African cichlid fry. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, leave a big thumbs up, and I'll see you on the next one.